friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. We are at the farmer's market today. I have only been to the farmer's market one time this season, and that is pretty sad to me. Normally I go all the time because obviously I can't grow everything, so I like to supplement with farmer's market, but with just how the move and everything, I've not been able to focus on that. But now it is mid-August. I have my kitchen unpacked. We did a party at my mom's house, and now all my brain power, all it has to think about is food preservation, finding local produce, harvesting my garden. And I am so excited that we have got through the move. We've gotten settled. Now, not everything is settled. My kitchen, my bedroom, and my laundry room are settled. The basement is a disaster. Well, I wouldn't say disaster, but it's not where I want it to be, but that is okay because right now I need to focus on what I need to focus on, and that is the produce that is coming out of my garden and produce that is coming out of local food producers in my area. So today at the farmer's market, my goal is to find corn and maybe peaches. I've got my bags. I grabbed a bunch of different bags, and we are going to buy a bunch or as much as we can. And I'm really excited that this is the part of the year that I love. I love food preservation. I love talking to local farmers. Let's go and see what we can find. I've been coming to this farmer's market now for 7 summers. And when I first started coming to this farmer's market, it was only 2 blocks long, and it has now grown to 4.5 blocks, which I think is absolutely incredible, especially through 2020 and 2021, how those years went, and that the demand for buying local has grown in my area, so I love that. I do need to get a birthday gift because I have a birthday party I'm going to this weekend, and I found these really amazing handmade soy candles, so I thought I would get my friend this as a gift and a bottle of wine. Might as well support local in getting birthday gifts as well as trying to fill my pantry. Now that we have got the birthday gift, let's focus on finding the produce we need for our projects this week. So a couple things, when you're at the farmer's market, to be a savvy farmer's market shopper, the most important thing you can do is talk to the vendor. Some farmer's markets require the people that are selling produce or selling crafts to be the person that actually grew the produce and made the craft. Some farmer's markets do not require that. And so some vendors in my farmers markets actually can go to our local produce distributing center, buy produce, and resell it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but that's not my goal. My goal is to fill my freezer and my pantry with produce that I purchased from people that actually produced the product. And so the best way to know is to look up your farmers market rules and also talk to the vendors. I spent a lot of time on this day talking to the 3 different vendors that were selling corn to know if they were the ones actually growing the corn. You will quickly know once you start talking to the farmers or the vendors if they're the ones that grow the food themselves, because they're going to be super passionate. Farming is a passion. People don't go into farming on a whim. They usually go because they are passionate about growing food, and they're going to be super happy to talk to you about their farming practices. I personally don't care if something is certified organic because it can be very expensive for a farm to go through that process. But if you just start talking to the farmers, they're going to be more than willing to share with you their farming practices, and you'll know if their practices align with your values. Another thing you can do is if you buy in bulk, sometimes you can get a bulk discount. You can ask, if I buy 50 ears of corn, can I get a discount? And I did do that with the 2 people that I felt comfortable and the 2 people that I wanted to invest my money in buying product from them. Those are just a couple things to note about farmers market shopping, because sometimes farmers markets are not the cheapest place to buy produce. You can sometimes buy produce cheaper at your local grocery store when it is on sale, but I really do like to put my money into my local economy whenever possible, and so that's why I am willing to pay a little bit of a premium for locally grown produce, and I know that money is going directly into the pocket of the person who produced the food, but that is why I want you to know that it is important to get to know the people that are growing your food and
have those conversations. So you know that if you are paying that premium price, you are getting something that was grown by that person and not something that was grown a couple states away that they purchased at a local food distributing center. So I did also look at some local hot sauces. I got a steam bun because I was hungry, and I wanted to look at some local pottery. I think it would be fun eventually to invest in some really beautiful handmade mixing bowls. I'm not in the market for that right now, but I had fun looking. I was planning on buying some bulk peaches today, but I was on the phone with my sister-in-law and we decided to go peach picking later in the week. So I just got enough peaches for snacking for the week.
I bought a lot of corn from 2 different vendors. One is one where I've been to their farm actually before I had my own garden. They have a CSA and they had a program where you could, instead of paying for a CSA to be a member, you could do a work share. Well, I never did the work share, but a couple times I went and volunteered to work on their farm just to get a little experience and things. And I had already purchased quite a bit of corn from one stand, and then they were there and they had corn. I just didn't think they were gonna have corn because every year I go to the farmer's market, they don't have corn. So then I had to buy some bulk corn from them. And why I'm walking in this back alley area is because I got 75 ears of corn from one farm, and I don't feel like taking 4 trips back and forth to get that to my car. And so I think there's this back alley I can drive by, but instead of just driving randomly with my car, I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and walk it so that I know, oh yeah, okay, I see where to go, so that I know that I can actually get there with my car instead of going back and forth 4 times, because I've already done it twice to do the corn from the other farm. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have a great day. I can't tell you how excited I am that I am now in food preservation mode. I am stocking my pantries, stocking my freezers, and this is what I love. Like I love doing this. Packing, unpacking, not necessarily my favorite thing to do. Buying from local food producers, putting up my own food, this is what I'm passionate about. So I'm excited. We are here, and it's gonna be a fun next about month or so while we do this. It is Tuesday. We went to the farmer's market on Sunday, and it is time to go ahead and tackle this corn. Plus we have a couple other food preservation things we're gonna do. We are going to be preserving this corn in a couple different ways. We're gonna be doing some canning. We are gonna be doing some freezing. We are gonna be making we're gonna preserve up some zucchini. I have a couple different ways we're gonna do some food preservation with zucchini. We're gonna be doing some freeze drying, and we're gonna make some zucchini bread. And it's gonna be a fun, busy day in the kitchen. We're gonna do a new recipe I've never done before with this corn. We're gonna can corn relish. I'm really excited. It's gonna be kind of like a topping for tacos, I think. So first thing we have to do is shuck 95 ears of corn. I went ahead and I washed out a clean laundry basket, and I'm gonna put the shucked corn in here so I can easily carry it with handles into the house. I thought it would be nice to do this project outside to keep a bunch of the silks and stuff out of my kitchen, and that way I have a little less cleanup to do because this is already going to be a pretty big project. I guess the only thing I forgot is I do need something to put the silks in and the corn husks in the meantime. So I have something for my corn cobs, but I don't have anything for my silks. So let me go figure something else out for that. I went and grabbed some paper bags, and that way I can just compost the whole thing. I can compost the brown paper bag and the silks. I can just toss it in a compost pile, and I think that that's going to work really well. So I'm going to put this down here. I'm trying to contain my mess when shucking this corn by shucking it right over my bag so I can work on getting the tassels off right into the bag. That way I have a little less cleanup because all the projects we're going to be doing inside will require some cleanup. So anything I can do to make this a little bit simpler, I'm happy about. about halfway done shucking my corn, and I am going to blanch this corn before I freeze it. So what I want to do is use one of my canners. I'm going to fill this up with water, and I'm going to get this on the stove to boil so that when I'm done shucking, I'm not waiting on water to boil. And that way, oops, I just put water all over my floor. That way, as soon as I'm done shucking, I can get to the processing part, which will be great. And I need to wipe up all that water I just spilled on my floor. I'm out here shucking still. I only have about 20 more ears to go, so we're making great progress. And I was thinking about the outside papers, what is this, the husks of the corn, and what I'm gonna do with it. Because I could just throw it in the compost pile and let it compost, but I need to go down to the garden in the next 2 days and do a big harvest and big weed cleanup and kind of take back my garden from the lack of attention it's had. I think what I'm gonna do with all of the husks is I'm going to use it as mulch / weed barrier, and I'm going to have it just compost in place in the garden. I did that last year with quite a few things, and it worked really well. So that is what I'm going to do with all these leftovers. So when we go down to do a big harvest together, I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do, but basically I'm just going to use it as mulch and weed barrier, because I do want to try to clean up those weeds, and if I don't put anything down, then they'll probably just come right back. We have 3 bags of mulch / compost, which I have to say, I'm so excited about this stuff, and I'm excited to see how well it works. And then we got 1 entire laundry bin full, so now it's time to start processing. We have our water that's boiling here. And I'm going to see how many ears of corn we can fit in here. I'm going to turn the temperature up, even though this was boiling quite heavily, because as soon as I put these corn cobs in the boiling water, they are going to cool this temperature down. And then once this comes back up to a boil, we need to blanch it for, I don't know, I need to Google how long to blanch corn for. Google says we need to boil it for 4 minutes. The reason you want to blanch vegetables before you freeze them is there's an enzyme in vegetables that starts to break down the produce, and if you blanch it, it denatures that enzyme and keeps it fresh longer. So this is boiling again, so I'm going to set a timer for 4 minutes. Our timer went off, and we're going to go ahead and get this corn out of the blanching water. I went ahead and I filled my sink up with cold water. We're going to put this hot corn in the cold water to stop the cooking process. The corn that we're going to turn into the corn relish, we do not need to blanch because we are going to pre-cook that. We're going to do a hot pack method with that. So the only ones that we need to blanch are the ones that we are going to freeze the kernels whole. Before I take these over to the cold water, I'm going to go ahead and fill up another round of corn in our boiling water. Smells so good in here. I wish you guys could smell it. Oh my goodness, it smells like a barbecue. It smells so good. Okay, so we're going to put the lid on and we're going to let that boil once it comes up to a boil for 4 minutes. I went ahead and got a large towel out to lay the corn on a large towel just to try to prevent so much water dripping onto my floor. I have this towel folded over, and I think I don't want to do that because I'm going to fold up this towel and make another row. While we're waiting for the blanching, I don't want to sit here and watch the pot boil, so I grabbed out my zucchinis. I only have one zucchini plant, and I did a second planting, and it's not producing a lot, but my yellow squash sure is. So I'm going to use yellow squash and preserve it up just like I would zucchini so we can make zucchini bread. We're going to make some zucchini bread today, but we're also going to preserve this up a couple different ways. I'm going to try freeze drying some. If you've watched any of my bulk cooking videos, you know that I like to put I like to put shredded zucchini that's frozen in things like meatballs and different savory dishes. And I think freeze dried, I could almost use it in place of breadcrumbs because it will sop up that moisture. So that's what we're gonna try this year for the first time. So I'm hoping I get a lot more zucchini than this. I'm hoping this is kind of just the first round of yellow squash and zucchini. But I have not made zucchini bread yet this year, and so I definitely want to make some of that today because that is just a sure sign that it's harvest season. Since I've never freeze-dried zucchini before, I think it'll work beautifully in things like meatballs and savory dishes, or adding it as a thickener to pasta sauces. But I don't know how it's going to work for making things like zucchini bread. I will do a test and see, and I'll show you guys how well that works. But I do want to make sure that I do freeze up some zucchini in freezer packs because I know that that makes zucchini bread really well. So we're going to do a combination of freeze-dried zucchini and just frozen zucchini. This is going pretty quickly. Using this big canner pot worked really well because we're able to get so many ears of corn in the pot at one time. I'm trying to shake off as much of the water as I can just so that that hot water isn't going in my cold water. I think we're going to get this done in just 2 more rounds, so 4 pots total, which is pretty good for 95 ears of corn. Now we are back to our regularly scheduled program. There's one tray for the freeze dryer, and then we'll do another tray. I'm also going to freeze dry one more thing. I have 2 cups of zucchini in this bowl, and we're going to make zucchini bread today with this. And then I'm going to start filling in some of my food saver bags. These are just quart food saver bags. 2 or 4 cups, I haven't decided. We have to see what it looks like, of the yellow squash. And this is going to be for making breads or putting in meatloafs and stuff, depending on how well we like the freeze-dried stuff. So I'm going to start with 2 cups, and if I can fit 4 cups, I'll do 4 cups. Yep, I'm going to do 4 cups. That way I can make 2 loaves of bread each time I make it. I decided to do the 4 cups just so that I use a few less food saver bags to save on food saver bags, because they are not the cheapest thing. have my food saver out, and we're going to put it on moist mode because there is a little bit of moisture in the zucchini, and there definitely will be in the corn as well. I like to kind of flatten it out and get a little bit more air out. You can see that there's some moisture in this bag. Anytime I do something like zucchini or corn, I will always do an extra seal just to make sure that it gets a good seal. You can see that it did take both, it needed both those seals in order to do that. So that's perfect. I'm going to put 4 cups on here, so this will make 2 loaves of zucchini bread sometime this winter. My timer did just go off for, oh no, this one only has 2 cups. The other ones have 4 cups, so I need to make sure that I mark that properly. And when you do something like zucchini, there is liquid in this trap, so you need to drain it. That one's sealed on the first try, but I'm going to go ahead and just do one more seal just to be safe. In the time it took us to blanch all of our corn, this is our last batch right here that I need to put in cold water. We were able to get our zucchini shredded up and ready for the freezer and ready to make some zucchini bread. So the next thing we're going to do is make some zucchini bread, so that can be baking in the oven while we prep what we need to prep to make the corn relish. And I just want to say I'm loving the layout so far of this kitchen with food preservation. This sink is amazing. Having a gas stove is amazing. It boiled that water so much faster than I'm used to, which I greatly appreciate. All the corn is blanched and I have it kind of drying on towels. We have 3 layers thick. This is the corn that's not been blanched. I'm just soaking it and I'm gonna give it a good scrub so we can start the corn relish here in a minute. But before we do that and before we make the zucchini bread, I figured let's go ahead and get the freeze dryer going. I have 2 cucumbers and these are gonna go bad really, really quickly if I don't do something with them. So I am gonna preserve cucumbers in a way I have never seen or heard anyone preserve cucumbers before. And that is by freeze drying it shredded. I'm a little obsessed with tzatziki sauce right now, and I think freeze drying is the only way that we could preserve cucumbers in order to make tzatziki sauce in the winter with garden fresh cucumbers. So I'm going to just shred this cucumber directly onto my freeze dryer tray. Before I preserve a ton of cucumbers this way, seeing if I get a ton of more cucumbers out of the garden, I'm going to freeze dry this, and then at some point here I'm gonna reconstitute it and make some tzatziki sauce with it and see how it goes and see if it works. This one bigger cucumber, there's some pretty big seeds on the inside, so I'm gonna shred around those seeds and we'll give the chickens those big seeds. I think what I'm gonna do too before I freeze dry this is I'm going to squeeze out some of this extra moisture because there is quite a bit of moisture coming off this cucumber. I just loaded up the freeze dryer. We have 3 trays of zucchini and 1 experimental tray of cucumbers. I guess these are experimental with the zucchini, but I have very good confidence that I'm gonna really enjoy that. Now we can close this up. It needs to cool for 15 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and push the start button. I can link my freeze dryer down in the description box if you're interested. I have the medium size. If you are gonna invest in a freeze dryer, I would highly, highly, highly recommend investing in a large one. They're quite an investment and they're not that much more to get a large, and you get, I think, 25% more capacity. And so that's what I would do. And I'm really excited that my freeze dryer is not in my kitchen anymore. It is now in the garage, so I don't have to listen to it. It's not that loud if it's just me in the kitchen, but if you're in the kitchen with me, it's not something you want to listen to in the background. So let's get some zucchini bread in the oven so we can have that for dessert tonight. And I'm gonna set the oven to 350 degrees.
So for a double recipe of zucchini bread, we're gonna put in 3 cups of sugar, or that's what the recipe calls for, but I think I'm only gonna put in 2.5 cups. And then I have 4 cups of zucchini in here. We're gonna put in 4 teaspoons of baking soda. This is a 1/2 teaspoon, so I'm gonna put 8 of these. And my baking soda is a little clumpy, so I usually have to put it in my hand and kind of break it up a little bit before I put it in, just so that you don't get a clump of baking soda. And I did double check the recipe, and it is supposed to be baking soda. We're gonna put in 4 cups of all-purpose flour. Technically, you are supposed to do this dry ingredients, wet ingredients, and then mix together, but I'm not gonna do that today. I think it'll turn out okay. We need 6 eggs. I'm gonna mix that baking soda in with that flour just a little bit. Now we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I probably put a total of 3, maybe 4 in there. 1.5 cups of vegetable oil. I am using olive oil, but this is a light olive oil. This is not an extra virgin, so it's not gonna give you that really oily or olivey flavor. So 1.5 cups of that. This is a double recipe. And then a good amount of vanilla. I'm gonna whisk these eggs together just a little bit, and then we'll mix this whole mix together, and it will be ready to go in the oven. Oh, salt. Goodness, don't wanna forget salt, even in sweet things. All right, we have our batter already. Now we're gonna get our pans prepared. They just have some avocado spray. We're gonna spray for non-stickage. We're gonna get our batter in our pans. This fills these up really, really tall. I think I might turn the oven down just a little bit so that I can bake the inside of these. It does say they do need to bake for about an hour. The oven is preheated. And this is the propane oven, so I'm not exactly sure how it works, if it runs hot or cold, because I've never baked in it yet. So I'm gonna keep a really close eye on this, and I'm gonna move this rack up, because I wanna make sure those are right in the middle. I'm gonna prep all the ingredients for our corn relish. We obviously need corn, peppers, onion. The recipe calls for celery. I'm not going to put celery in it, so I'm going to just add more onion instead of celery. I have my cutting board on my really big cookie sheet so that any of the ones that fly hopefully get caught in the cookie sheet, and I can try to contain some of the mess if possible. They have really cool contraptions now to cut corn. This is what I have, so this is what we're gonna use today. And I do need to measure out the corn because we are water bath canning. So we need to make sure we have the right ratio of non-acidic foods, which are these ones right here, to our vinegar. I'm gonna cut all the ears of corn I have. I'm not trying to make a huge batch of this because I've never had it before. So I wanna make sure I like it. But all the corn that I didn't blanch, I'm gonna go ahead and make into this relish. So that's 2. I ended up with enough corn for 1.5 recipes. I diced up one of the bell peppers I bought at the farmer's market. I'm gonna dice up 4 jalapenos because I do want there to be a little bit of heat to this relish. I'm thinking I'm gonna use this relish as a taco topping. It's basically a pickled taco topping. I need to taste one of these jalapenos to see how spicy they are. All right, that has some heat to it. I think I'm gonna leave the seeds and ribs in 2 of the jalapenos, and 2 of them I'll take it out. I love heat. Josh does not like heat, and I want him to enjoy this. I don't wanna risk burning myself with the spice from the jalapeno. It might be just fine, but it might not, so better safe than sorry. And I love putting pickled onions on my tacos, so I'm kind of thinking that this could be, and I love corn on tacos, so I'm kind of thinking this could be a nice little condiment.
I'm gonna dice these really, really finely. I have a big bowl here for the chickens. They're gonna enjoy all the cobs of corn, and they will enjoy the seeds. Chickens can't taste spice, so you can feed them the seeds and ribs of jalapenos or spicy peppers. No problem. This is not my best chopping skills here, but that's okay. I'm getting the job done. Well, this cookie sheet's working for more than just the corn. It's working for these peppers because I'm throwing them all over. All right, we have our finely diced jalapenos. And I have 2 onions from my garden. And I definitely need to go and harvest all the onions very, very soon. And I need to preserve them up because these are Walla Walla onions and they are not a long-lasting onion. They are a very sweet onion. I'm gonna dice these really, really thin. And I probably should have harvested them a few weeks ago. So that's why they're not gonna be shelf stable for any length of time. And I need to get them out of the garden and into the freezer or freeze dryer or food dehydrator. My little onions produce quite a bit of onions, the amount we needed. So now we can actually get to cooking this. In our pot, we need to cook our ingredients. I'm gonna put 1 cup of sugar, and I am 1.5ing this recipe. And then we need 3 cups of vinegar. This is just white distilled vinegar. This is what makes it safe for water bath canning. And then we need 1.5 tablespoons of salt. The salt is not what preserves this. It's just for flavor. You want to make sure you don't use iodized salt. I use Redmond real salt because there is natural iodine in it, but there's not the excessive amount of iodine. The iodine will just discolor your canning products in the jar over time, so that's why you don't want to use iodized salt when you're canning. There is natural iodine in Redmond real salt, but there's like a normal level amount of iodine. In table salt or your typical salt with the lady with the umbrella, they strip all the minerals out of that salt, and then because they have stripped out all the minerals, they then have to go back in and add iodine to keep us healthy. But if you buy a natural salt, it's already going to have the natural or normal level of iodine in it, and that level is not going to affect your canning goods. It's the extra that they add that's going to affect your canning goods. We have our relish in the pot, and I just realized this is the first time I've ever canned a relish before, so this is kind of fun. We're going to have this come up to a boil or a simmer, and we're going to simmer it for 15 minutes, and then we're going to get it in our jars. So while this is going, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Oh, I also went ahead and I dumped out our water that we blanched the corn in, and I'm putting fresh water in our canner, and I'm going to get that going just to warm up a little bit because we are going to put hot food into our jars, so we want to make sure that our water is warm too.
I had 2 extra bell peppers that I bought at the farmer's market that I knew we weren't going to eat before they went bad, so I diced them up and I just threw those in the freezer just to make sure they don't go bad. And here is our relish. It boiled or simmered for 15 minutes, and now we're going to get them into our jars. I don't sterilize my jars per se. I like to run my jars through my dishwasher and make sure they're nice and clean and sanitized, but they do not need to be sterilized to be water bath canned. I am trying to get more of the solids into a jar so that when I go to can it, it's not going to be just half liquid, half corn. I kind of want to get as much corn in each jar as possible. And I am going to leave a 1/2 inch of headspace in each of these jars. That is the proper headspace for this corn relish recipe. This stuff, my goodness, friends, it smells so good, and I'm really excited about trying this recipe. When I am trying new canning recipes, my goal is to not do a whole bunch of it at one time. I've learned that the hard way. The best way to do it is to do a smaller batch. See if you like it. If you like it, go ahead and make more of it. If you don't, then you didn't waste as much product and as much time. So now I'm going through and I'm just trying to make sure that I have proper headspace in each one. I'm trying to make sure that it's not mostly just liquid. I want a good amount of liquid to solid in each one of these jars. I do wipe the rim of each jar because there is sugar in this, and I want to make sure it's nice and clean so that we don't have anything get in the way of getting a nice good seal. I am using my favorite canning lids. These are 4 jars lids. I can link them down below along with a discount code that will get you 10% off your order. I've been using these since January and I've not had one lid failure since I started using them, and I absolutely love them. Now that we have the jars ready to go, we're going to put them in the canner. We're going to have this water come up to a rolling boil, and I want to make sure that there's 1 to 2 inches of water above this. There wasn't, so I added a little bit more water. Once it comes to a rolling boil, like it is right here, we are going to go ahead and set our timer for 15 minutes. Now we need to get going on all of this corn that we are going to freeze. I am doing the same technique where I have my cutting board on this cookie sheet, and we are just going to take our time to cut this corn off the cob. This method worked really well. Like I mentioned, there is this really cool corn cob cutter thing that I've seen on a couple of people's videos that looks really efficient, but I don't have that, so I am just going to use my really sharp knife to get this project done.
I have gotten halfway through the corn so far. I still have that much more to go, and we have about, I don't know, 6 or so minutes left on the relish, but I can smell, oh, there goes my timer. That timer was for the relish, so I just turned that off. I'm trying to be better about setting timers. This zucchini bread was getting a little too dark before it was done on the inside, so I put a piece of foil on it, and now it feels done. So let's get a toothpick out. I'm going to go ahead and take these out because the toothpick came out clean. Got a little bit dark on the side, but that's okay. It's nice and done on the inside. The corn relish is done. I turned it off. I'm going to let it cool for about 5 minutes before I take these out of the canner. That just helps equalize the pressure that's in the can and outside so you don't get siphoning. Friends, I tried this relish. It is delicious. I think that I might have to make more of it. I'm going to have Josh taste it, and if he likes it, we might have to make more, or we'll just wait till next year. I don't know. I need to make some space on my tray. This has worked out really, really well to have the cookie sheet on the bottom so that I'm not making a mess on my counter. I'm trying to put in here what you would get in about 1 bag of buying frozen corn from the store. So that looks about right once I kind of flatten it out. The zucchini bread came out of the pans beautifully. Look at that. Awesome. I now have another full tray of corn. These are actually bigger than quart bags. I think these are 1.5 bags. So I'm not filling them all the way full, but I'm probably filling them fuller than if I was filling a quart bag. I'm gonna go ahead and get these ones sealed up so that I can make more room on my tray. This is where I don't like to have a big bubble like this. I like to try to get as much air out as possible, flatten it. This is kind of a moist thing as well, so I will seal this twice, just like I did with the other item we did, which I can't remember what it was. Oh, the zucchini. I have a little mason jar right here to empty the liquid, so we can empty the liquid after each use. Make sure there's no corn in the way. I need a way to transport all of these corn on the cobs to the chickens, so I thought I would line this laundry bin with the broken down paper bags, and I'm gonna put this in the back of the truck, and we're gonna head down and take care of them tomorrow. I've got to go into town tomorrow, and so the chickens will be able to enjoy the little bit of corn that's left on these cobs. We officially got all the corn off the cobs, so I'm excited to give that to them. They'll really enjoy that. Oh, just kidding. I have one more to do.
This corn was so good. There is nothing better than summer fresh produce. The quality is just superior than just anything. So while I was working on this project this afternoon, I probably ate, I think, 2 or 3 ears of corn, and that basically became my dinner, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful dinner.
Here is the final of what we got today. We got 10 cups of shredded zucchini for zucchini bread, or to add into random recipes, whatever we'd like to do. But I am thinking that this zucchini is more going to be for zucchini bread, and the stuff in the freeze dryer is going to be more for soups, pastas, things like that, meatballs. We have 14 big bags of corn, which I think that's a little over one a month, which should be plenty, because the way I use this the most is by making tacos, and we got 5 pints of this relish, which I am so excited about. This stuff tastes so good. I think next time I do it, I will do no green peppers, and it'll all be jalapenos, so it's a little bit spicier because you do add that sugar. But let me tell you, friends, this stuff is fantastic. But because this is what I want to put on tacos, I won't need as much of this to make into different salsas. So that's exciting. I got 2 bell peppers to go in the freezer from the farmer's market because I didn't end up using them and they were gonna go bad. We got 2 huge loaves of zucchini bread. I did have a little slice. I did not realize it is almost 8 o'clock. Josh had to go do some stuff after work, so I got hungry, so I had a little slice of that. This one, once it cools, I'm gonna wrap it up and put it in the freezer. And then we got 3 trays of the shredded zucchini in the freeze dryer. That won't be done until probably tomorrow evening, and 1 tray of the shredded cucumbers, which is a total mystery. I have no idea how that's going to turn out. I will show you what the zucchini and the cucumbers look like coming out of the freeze dryer, so you can kind of see what the texture is like on that. We will reconstitute the cucumber together, and I'm sure we will use the shredded zucchini in a multitude of ways coming up, and so you'll be able to see what that looks like. If you're interested in learning more about canning, then I can put my canning playlist here, and I can put my freeze drying playlist here if you're interested in learning more about freeze drying. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm so excited. We are in food preservation mode now. Not tomorrow, but the next day. I'm going to be spending all day at the garden. We have tons of stuff to harvest, and between my garden, the farmer's market, and some local farmers that I know in my area, I am excited to start filling my pantry and freezer with all sorts of local goodies. Thank you once again for hanging out with me. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.